Hey there, magical experimenters. This is Taylor Ellwood, and well, I'm back with my voice for the most part. I'm pretty much recovered from the illness that I had, a little bit of scratchiness left over, which happens. So, tonight I thought I would talk about the law of attraction, intention, and magic. And the reason that I decided to do this, I've actually done a video about this before. But the reason I decided to do this video is because recently someone on YouTube had asked me, like, is the law of attraction the same thing as magic? And can I use the law of attraction, as, to do magic? And I was like, no, you can't. The law of attraction is not magic. And they didn't really get it. They asked me a few more questions, and finally, I'll admit I was a little exasperated. I'm like, just go out there and do some magic. See, go out there and do what you need to do. Which probably illustrates, among other things, that I'm really just not like a great teacher, because I'm just kind of like, go out there and do it. Or maybe I'm a better teacher for it, because I'm just like, go out there and do it. I'm not going to handhold you. Either way, there you go. And but it did get me thinking, and in part, I mean, because I've also been doing this little series on wealth magic, I thought, I could use a little break from it, but I would actually like to do a video similar to that series. And so I decided to come up with this. So what is the law of attraction? Well, I first heard about the law of attraction because of the book called The Secret, right? And the book called The Secret basically talks about the law of attraction and how you can use the law of attraction to manifest things in your life. And I'll be honest with you, from the very beginning, I found it to be a pile of schlock. It just didn't really make much sense to me, because it was all about intention and being able to the argument was that whatever you got in your life was something that you intended to have, and that the way you are in life is something that you intended to be. There are some real problems with this argument. Let's say, for example, that you're somebody who's quote-unquote obese. According to the law of attraction, you intended to be that way. That's why you're that way. Or if you're somebody who has a chronic illness, you intended to have that chronic illness. You can see the slippery slide here with this. The other thing that's always stood out to me about the law of attraction is the people that quote-unquote practice it, that seem to be really successful, don't seem really invested in teaching people actual real skills in terms of how to manifest a degree of success or wealth or whatever in their lives. It's, oh, you're gonna visualize what you intend and it'll come to you. Now, some people might say that on the surface this seems a lot like magic, especially when you use that word visualization or something like that. Nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, for one thing, visualizations are way overused when it comes to magic. Not that they aren't a powerful tool. But the other thing is that magic doesn't work on intention alone. There's a saying that I think applies here, and it's that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Why is that? Why is that saying applicable? Because you can have all the intention in the world, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't amount to squat. Okay, this is harsh truth. Now I'm gonna give you guys some tough love for those of you out there who are like, oh, law of attraction, da da da. No, okay? No. Law of attraction is not magic. It will never be magic. It is not the same thing as magic. You can have all the intention in the world, and it doesn't mean anything unless you're willing to do something about it. And of course, the other problem with intention is that you might intend something and you may not necessarily recognize what the actual impact of that intention is. What I think I see with the law of attraction is that it tends to encourage a kind of self-interested introversion that I don't think is healthy for people. And given that we live in some ways in a society that seems to be more and more narcissistic and more self-involved and focused than ever, it just seems, I'm not going to blame that Wally on the law of attraction, because that's not the only reason, but I certainly don't think it helps. it tends to encourage a lack of critical awareness and thinking when it comes to what it takes to really manifest things. In fact, if you want to read a good book on how to, whether or not you use practice magic or not, if you want to read a really good book on how to create change in your life, then I'm going to recommend, and I have the link in the description here, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And the reason why you're only seeing the jacket is because I am reading the book, and so I didn't want to. I didn't want to lug the jacket with me in the backpack because my books tend to get battered pretty hard. I'm hard on my books because I read them and I take them everywhere. But The Slight Edge is an amazing book that I would highly recommend, because the difference between it and the law of attraction is that it's actually talking about what you need to do to take action. It does talk about attitude. It does talk about attention. But it talks about how to actually make those things effective, how to use them to meaningfully transform your life, and what it takes to do it on a daily basis. And this is the thing that is missing in the law of attraction. Now, again, I'm not saying that what's taught in The Slight Edge is quote-unquote magic. It's not. It's just a very specific way, a philosophy of living your life that can make your life that can help you make some dynamic changes in your life. And the reason I like it is because it's a process of iteration and optimization, which I'm all in favor of. So, but let's talk now about about magic versus the law of attraction and what the difference is. The difference is this: if you look at magic, magic is all about taking actions, specific actions, and some of those actions aren't necessarily always going to be your own actions, or rather they may start with you, but they may involve the actions of other spiritual forces that you're working with. Take, for example, my recent illness. I had this nasty cold. It wasn't going away. It just seemed to be getting worse and worse, and I was getting worried that I was going to come down with an infection. So what did I do? One night when I was doing my meditations in the midst of this cold, I took that feeling of sickness and I used it to invoke a couple of demonic spirits called Verrier and Vereen that I've worked with before, that are demons of health. And then the other thing I ended up doing is I ended up working with Asclepius and his daughters, and specifically one daughter, Iaso, who is the goddess of recuperation and health. And basically what I ended up doing is I ended up creating a tag team situation where Verrier and Vereen helped to jumpstart the healing process and get the crud out of my body, like basically force my body to start expelling it, because I knew it needed to go, and it wasn't going on its own like it normally would. And I was trying everything that I knew how to do, and that normally works. I normally can get over a cold very quickly. This cold was hanging on. And then Iaso came in and basically helped me with the recuperation part of it, with the healing after getting rid of the stuff that isn't good for you, and kind of helping with maintaining that balance so that my body could recover and that I could become healthy without going right back to being sick again. Some of those actions were started initially by me, in the sense that I invoked those spirits and that I worked with them, but then the rest of the actions were those spirits working on my behalf in order to create change. There really wasn't a lot of intention involved. I mean, I guess my intention of not being sick, but it was more about action. There were specific things being done in order to manifest the desired change in my life. It wasn't about just waiting for something to happen, which is what I get for whenever people talk about the law of attraction. Well, you just kind of have to wait until something comes your way. Magic doesn't work that way. You don't wait for something to come your way. You go out there and you do it. Sometimes the actions are done on your behalf by spirits or what have you, but you're actively going out there and doing something, and you're actively taking part in any magical working that you're doing. And also you're choosing to take mundane actions to, at least in my process of magic, the way my system works, you take mundane actions as well, and you wed those to your magical actions. My mundane actions in the case of the health stuff was that I did certain activities, including taking some types of medicine and doing some other things to help get the stuff out of me, And I use that and I combine that with the work with the spirits to really kind of to expedite the process and get things taken care of. I think a lot of times, what I see is that people want an easier path in life. They want things to be easy, and I see the lure of the law of attraction in that sense, because the law of attraction is like, well, you just focus on what you intend, and if you intend to have lots of money and that's your focus, then that's what's going to happen to you. Lots of money is going to come your way. And I get it. I mean, who doesn't want an easier life? But I'm going to be brutally honest. Life is not necessarily that easy. And if it is that easy, it's because you actively work toward it. It's because you actively create a process of iteration and optimization in your life. And that may involve using magic. It may not. I mean, that's why I recommended that book, The Slight Edge, because that's a book that whether you practice magic or not, you can apply to make changes in your life. And you'll see some excellent work, but it requires discipline and focus. It's not just intending for things to happen. You actually have to do something each and every single day to get where you want to go. I think that the Slight Edge actually happens to mesh very nicely with magical work if you're the kind of magician that I am, where you're doing magic every day and you're actively working on designing your life. If you're someone who just does magic on occasion, like when you really need to or for holiday stuff, yeah, it may not necessarily mesh so well, because it requires that discipline and focus, and that's really what we're looking for here. But I think that, I think what frustrates me sometimes in regards to some of the stuff with the law of attraction and stuff like that is that it's too good to be true. And when something's too good to be true, it generally that's exactly what it is. And I get why people feel that way, why they want something like that. Well, and it may be that there are even certain things about it that are applicable to magic. I'll leave myself open to that possibility. I just, from my experience of it and from observing various people who've gotten caught up in it, it doesn't seem to hold. It doesn't seem to be the case. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm happy to be proven wrong. The fact of the matter is, I'm not always right about everything. I promise. Even if I act like it sometimes, so I could be wrong about that. But the fact is that the fact of the matter is, at least so far, what I've seen is that it doesn't seem to really lend itself that way. And instead, people get caught up in this pipe dream that if they intend things to be a certain way, that things will just be that way. And what they forget is that there's a crucial step that's missing, and it's that you have to take action. Even like in the process of magic, I do have intention as part of the process of magic, but it has a very specific role. It's used as a way to define what the underlying attitude and motivation is for doing your magical work. But you can have a very specific attitude, and if you take no actions, it doesn't mean anything. If you don't do anything, if you don't apply yourself, if you don't take action, I know I'm sounding like a crotchety old man here, but it's true. If you don't apply yourself, you won't get anything. This is true. This is true in mundane life. This is true with magical work. It is true with everything. If you want something, you have to take action. It's not enough to have an intention. Everyone in the world around has intentions. And intentions don't mean anything without action. It doesn't mean anything if you're not willing to do something about it. And this is what I would tell any of you who are, watching this video and kind of like, okay, Taylor, yeah, you've kind of belabored this point. The reason I'm belaboring this point is because I think it's so important to make this thing very clear. It is not enough to intend something to happen. You must be willing to take action. And it's not enough to try and frame things a certain way. This is the other reason I got exasperated with the person. It felt like they were trying so hard to pigeonhole magic into the law of attraction. Like they wanted it to fit into that particular box. And they're not the same thing. It'd be like if I was trying to say, well, it's like if I was trying to pigeonhole the law of attraction into magic. The law of attraction isn't magic, and magic isn't the law of attraction. The law of attraction is a specific philosophy, if you will, an approach to life. I don't think it's as effective as some people think it is, but hey, that's fine. Whereas magic is ultimately a spiritual system of practices, sometimes used to manifest results, sometimes used for ongoing transformation and internal work. I mean, there are different reasons people practice magic. I have a combination of reasons. I would say my magic these days leans more heavily toward long-term magical work and transformation and ongoing change, with the occasional sprinkling of I need a result now, and I'm going to do magic to help expedite this result, like with my health. It used to be more results focused, and the reason why it's become less results focused is because, in a very real sense, I've attained a lot of what I'm looking for, and the other things that I want to attain are basically it's basically lifelong work. Like, I am purposely designing and shaping my life, and I'm using magic as part of that in order to manifest things over the long term. I'm looking over the course of my life, and I'm like, okay, what can I do to create a very specific life that I want to have, where things are just overall much easier. And so I'm doing some of the heavy lifting now via magic and via other things in order to make my life easier down the line, because I have a very specific lifestyle I want to live. I'm in the process of manifesting that. And some people might say, well, why isn't that happening just like right now, like that? And again, some of it takes work. It's not just something that happens overnight. But when I compare where I was 2.5 years ago to where I am now, yeah, I'm a lot further along than I was. Things are really shaping up very relatively quickly in the grand scheme of things. So when you're, to those of you who believe in the law of attraction, look, I'm not trying to insult you. I mean, I'm just sharing candidly my opinion, and I'm not the kind of person to pull punches. If that offends you, I apologize in that sense, but I'm not going to apologize for my opinion itself. I just don't want people to try and box one thing into another. If you're going to practice magic, then actually practice magic, and don't try and fit it into some type of other box. It's the same problem I have with people who try to psychologize magic. Okay, magic isn't psychology, all right? Yes, there may be some psychological effects, but you look at someone who's genuinely practicing magic, and the effects are much more than psychological. The people where magic is all in their heads, usually the reason why is because they're afraid of what magic really is, and they're afraid of manifesting genuine change in their life, and so they want it to be psychological. And I know some people will disagree with me on that, because they'll say, well, no, Taylor, it's not just that. But that's again, my candid opinion and observations based on seeing that very thing in a number of people that I've met over the years, where it's kind of like they've needed magic to fit into the psychological box, and they've been afraid to go and experience what it's really like. When we try to take something and define it through what makes us comfortable, we necessarily take out the crucial experiences that we actually need to have to experience what we're trying to experience. Instead, we put it into safe packaging, and then therefore we never really experience it. And that's really what it boils down to in terms of my issue with the law of attraction and trying to apply that to magic. They're not one and the same thing. And if you're serious about practicing magic, then actually practice magic. Learn how to do magic, practice it, and see and observe the experiences. And sure, compare them with what you've noticed with the law of attraction. Maybe you'll see some parallels, maybe you won't. But don't try and fit it into that box until you've actually had a few experiences under your belt and you see what it's really like. and you can compare it to what your experiences with the law of attraction are like. Because you're going to see, I can guarantee you that you will see very distinct differences, and that's the whole point. It's not one and the same thing. All right, that's it. That's my lecture for the night. I'm sure you guys love me lecturing at you like a crotchety old man, but there you go. Sometimes I got to let the crotchety old man out, and that's what I did tonight. Take care and talk to you next week.